Hello, my friend, my warrior. This is Mary Mac of the Mary Mac Show, encouraging you to visit my website, www.marymac.info, and pick up your free ebook, 21 Things You Must Know About the Grieving Process. And I encourage you to subscribe and pass this on to anyone who may be in need of assistance. Now back to our episode. Welcome to the Mary Mac Show, where we will be talking about your feelings, experiences, and pain following the death of a loved one. Good evening, everyone. This is Mary Mac of the Mary Mac Show. And I am so fortunate to have with me Janae Watterson. And she is from
Enumclaw, Washington.
I knew I was going to mess it up, so I asked her to tell you. And which area of Washington State is that? Is that in the Southeast?
It's the Pacific Northwest.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Great. And I've known Janae now for over a year, maybe even more, right?
I think about close to over 2 years now, I think. Yeah.
We were fortunate to get together over fundraising events for the Foundation for Grieving Children, which I started like 2 decades ago. I can't believe it's so long now. And she asked to do some work for us and became what's known as our fundraising ambassador. And she has put together lovely events about a year ago. Is it that long that you started your new shop, your new location?
Our new location, we're about 2.5 years old there at the new
Oh,
location.
wow, that long.
Yeah.
And when she was going to open this new location, she asked if she could make donations, have her customers make donations to the foundation, which I thought was phenomenal. What a great idea. She comes up with great ideas, this one. So we raised a lot of money the day of the inaugural event, and it was very well planned out and just a beautiful, beautiful thing, Janae. And
Thank
as time went on, she developed at the salon daddy-daughter events.
you.
And it's like a date night for little girls and their dad. And the sole male, right, stylist at Salon Kathleen, that's her salon, named after her mother, who we're going to speak about today. She's had this twice, and it's going to be another one in July of this year. And again, the individuals who come, the fathers, make donations. And I just love that. It's just so great. And
So-
recently, her husband, Ryan, and her two sons, Willie and Waylon, is that correct?
Correct.
They raised even more money to when Ryan went up and down a mountain. It was called the Peak 24, and he completed the entire event and raised so much money. And for that, I thank you so much.
Oh, happy to. It was my pleasure.
Oh my God. It was just such a phenomenal event. And so today I get to speak to her face to face. And I'm so grateful for you doing this because I want to know more about your mom. And so her mother's name was Kathy Rogers, and she was killed in a car accident when Janae was 17, right? And her mother was 44. And she left behind her father and three uh, female siblings or sisters, I should say. and and so now, all these years later, this happened in 1996,
Mhm,
and Janae feels comfortable to speak about that incident because when her mom was killed, she was in the car with her.
mhm.
So this is heavy duty stuff.
Yes.
And I really wanted for her to be with us because I'm sure there are others, other females and males who, they've gone through this. They may have been in a similar situation where they were on the scene when their parent or sibling were killed.
Mhm.
So I thank you so much, Janae, for being here today.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I would like to start by asking you to tell us about your growing up years.
Okay. Well, I had a fabulous growing up years. I grew up right here in Enumclaw, where I still am with my family. Yeah, my parents were fabulous parents. My sisters had fun. We played sports. My parents were both super supportive in that. Um, we were um, we were very much in a spiritual home. My mother was a very strong Christian woman, so we that our household was surrounded with Jesus, which is given me a very strong foundation in my life and why I even can be talking to you today, Mary. So yeah, we had fun vacations. My dad had his own excavating company, so he worked for himself. So um, he was able to, you know, take vacations with us, and yeah, I mean, just real normal and healthy and fun. Yeah,
And as you grew, how were your high school years? Were you very active in sports then too?
yes, yes. So I was very, very active in sports. Well, when I was younger, I played whatever, every single sport. But once I got into high school, it was narrowed down to basketball and volleyball. But basketball was definitely the number one sport in my world. Um, and so, and I had a really, really great experience with basketball, high school basketball. Um, the only upsetting thing, like when you asked how was high school sports, it was really honestly the after my mom after my mom was killed, high school just wasn't the same. So
Sure.
sports, I would say basketball was what kind of got me through the rest of my high school because I was a sophomore when it happened. So the next 2 years were a huge struggle. So I was very thankful that I stuck with basketball and it just kind of like got me through high school because it was at that point I couldn't relate to really any of anybody in high school anymore. It was tough. It was
Yeah,
tough.
I would
Sports were
say
amazing for me. Sports were amazing for me. So
that really helped you. That's
yeah,
great.
yeah, it really did. Really helped me kind of it helped me just kind of I think when I look back on it now and I didn't know really at the time, it just felt good when I was on the court.
Mhm.
Now looking back, I feel like that's where I was if there was any grieving going on, that's when it was happening when I was playing basketball, I think when I was a teenager.
Wow.
Yeah.
And did your dad and your sisters, did they grieve in all different ways? Did everybody have a different?
Absolutely, absolutely, and we still do,
Ah,
and
interesting.
still do. We're still very, very different on how we grieve, and I'm very aware of it, and I think they are too. But yeah, still to this day, I would say.
That usually happens in a family. Everybody takes their own time, their own stride.
Yeah,
No.
right. Yeah, for sure. I've definitely seen that in my family. So yeah. Mhm.
Would you please tell us the day that this happened?
Okay, so no, so 1996, November, it was in November, so I believe it was the 13th.
Hmm.
I believe it was the 13th. And so I was a sophomore in high school, 17 years old, and my mother and I were going to get our hair done. And again, I was the athlete, so I didn't really care to go do this, but my sister, yeah, I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah, yeah. And for
But
what reason?
yeah, I'm like, why am I doing this?
Uh-huh.
But my older sister, the one that's right above me, like I'm the third of four girls.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so that my sister above me, Jody, who's 2 years above me, she was getting married. So her wedding was in like 2 weeks.
Wow.
And so my mom was taking me, and with my basketball schedule and all the stuff, it just was like they'd already all gone and gotten their hair done. But for me, with sports, I had to go at a different time. So my mom was taking the time to take me up there, which was like a 40-minute drive to the hair salon that we were going to her
Yeah.
hairdresser, who ironically I ended up working for and trained under and worked with for 12 years
I
after
know.
after.
Just so the audience knows, so Salon Kathleen is after
Mhm.
Janae's mother. Her name was Kathleen. They said her name as uh, they spoke of her as Kathy. Is that
Right.
correct?
That's correct, Kathy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's an ironic twist of events, so to speak,
Yeah.
that she became a hairdresser herself.
Yeah. I
Right?
know. Yeah. It's very interesting how things panned out in my life, really, when you think about it. But God has a plan, that's for sure. And if you listen and
Yeah.
you follow, He's going to provide. So we were on our way there, and we got into an accident, and we my mother was not killed immediately, but she passed away in the ambulance on the way to the hospital, and I
Mm.
was in a different ambulance, so
Oh.
I didn't really know what was happening. But um so that's it's interesting because like even my sisters have asked me questions like, and I really don't remember a lot. And I think maybe the Lord protecting my heart, or maybe I don't want to remember things, but I
Mhm.
don't remember a lot. I just remember um, the initial wreck and being confused and just in an ambulance and going to the hospital, and then my family is all there, and that's that's really it on that. I just thought she was getting out of the car. I wasn't hurt real bad. I just had some cuts and scrapes on my face and stuff, and
Mhm.
so I think the biggest shocker just was just coming home from the hospital and still not really understand. I think you just when you're told, you're just so like that's not really what's happening. Like you're
Yeah.
just
In
out of
shock.
body, out
Totally
of
in shock. Hmm.
completely out of body experience. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So yeah, we got back to the house, and I don't think it's still very, I was 17, and I was the type of kid that was very, very, very relied on my mother. Like out of all four of us, I was the one that I stayed home a lot. I didn't I didn't stay at other kids' houses that much. I didn't go out much. With friends, I mean, I did, but for the most part, as a homebody,
Yes.
and even at a young age, I was just always with my mom. So it's very anybody. I mean, my sisters would tell you that. So it's very dependent on her,
Mhm.
and so where was I going with that? I think what it was that's I think when it was all happening and getting back to the house, um, there's really not much I can say about any of that because from what I was told, I didn't speak for about a week, and I
Wow.
was in bed for about a week. Yeah. So
Wow.
I don't really remember any of that.
Who told you that she died?
Um, well, unfortunately, I had a bad experience. Well, of course, the whole situation was a bad experience, but I was one of the firefighters that were on the site,
Yes.
had just come into the ambulance and just kind of just said it to me because they hadn't taken my ambulance off yet or something. I don't know if I
Okay.
was aware. And so he had just come in and told me, which I think was I mean, completely inappropriate. Like he shouldn't have been the one to come. I didn't know who he was. I was a kid,
Right.
just kind of marched in there and just said and told me. And then I think that's when I went kind of catatonic.
Yes.
I just kind of, from what I was told, again, I didn't go catatonic immediately, but for like the first minute, there was like shaking and convulsions and things. And then the same guy had said, okay, well, we need to give her something. And then, oh yeah, I'll never forget this. Oh, we have to give her something. And I remember thinking like right away in my heart, nope, I want to feel this. Like that. And I feel like that was a very adult thing to think when I think about it now.
Absolutely. At that age, yes.
Yes, I just remember thinking, I need to feel this because if I don't, I'm gonna be, not gonna be good. I just didn't understand it, but I knew I needed to feel it. So that's at that moment, and I remember that very clearly. I just went catatonic, and then that's when I'm telling you that I can't remember really anything else. I think that's when it started. I just don't really remember being at the hospital or even the ride back home or just that whole. And apparently, like I said, I didn't talk and I was in bed for a week.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So pretty traumatic for a child.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Hmm.
Wow.
Hmm. One of the really another just how my life works is I had a boyfriend at the time, and that boyfriend was Ryan, my husband, who is my husband right now.
So
And
he's
we
been with you through this whole time.
yes, he's been we had a gap. He was my boyfriend during that time. And then, I just couldn't, I mean, I couldn't do my life. I couldn't.
Yeah.
And so we broke up and then we ended up getting back together like 7 years later and getting married. So
Wow.
yeah. So he has a really beautiful connection with, he had a really good relationship with my mom too. And we have that bond, which is amazing. And he understands it, so he's been a huge support for sure.
That's precious
Thank you.
to
Yeah.
know that, he knew her. So he
Hmm.
knows exactly what, you lost.
Yes, he does. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He grieves too, and it's funny, Mary, because, um, I might be jumping the gun here on how we want to talk about this, but when I finally got help, um, and worked a lot of years through some things, I when I was maybe 4 years into my therapy for grieving and post traumatic stress, is when I realized, oh my goodness, Ryan, okay, he's grieving. It was like this whole nother thing that I was like, oh my goodness, because he would start to see me do the work and the counseling and all the things. And then I would talk to him about it. And then he would start to like talk to me and I could tell that he was needing to get stuff out. And it's very interesting because when you get that stuff out of you and you create space, like healthy space, it opens your mind and your heart to like, oh, like I was able to see that he was hurting as well with that situation, grieving my mom,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And as time went on, um, what would you say were some of the toughest times where it her birthday? Was it the holidays?
Oh,
Was it your birthday?
oh, well, I would say like all of those things, all of those things you just touched on for like the first like 2-3 years was just like, especially being a kid, is just too much. It's just all of it's just bad. You just want to just get through the day, or you just don't want to get out of bed on that day, or um, you just try to be with your sisters on those days. But coming to the time now, my toughest days are probably, it's interesting. It's a good question. My birthday,
Mm-hmm.
Mother's Day,
Yeah.
and Easter.
Aw.
Those are my three um, probably toughest days, I feel like, of the year now. All the other ones are tough too, but um, I think those ones will always be days where I like will kind of sit by myself and make some time to just kind of like, you know, reflect and think and cry
And
and
feel whatever comes up.
yes, exactly. It
And
kind of keeps
giving yourself permission to do that and the time and space to do it is really very valuable in its
it
own way.
really is. I agree with you. It's a must. It's a must because there were so many years where I didn't. There were so many years where um I went straight into doing what I did with basketball,
Mm-hmm.
which was use that as my tool to grieving, which I didn't realize I was doing that, but
Right.
that's what I was doing, right into hair in my career. And so I was kind of like one of those functioning like people who have been through traumatic, as grieving and post-traumatic situation stress. And see, it's even hard for me to say it because it's just interesting when you find yourself, dealing with those things when you didn't really know that was happening. But
Yes, I
yeah,
interviewed a gal 2 weeks ago and she went through PTSD as well. And she was the same way. She started to have anxiety attacks and she didn't even know what was going on. And until she finally went to
yep,
therapy, they worked through it and she was diagnosed with that. And it made her feel like, okay, I'm not going out of my mind.
110% can relate to that because that is why I sought out for help. And I was 17 when I lost my mom, and I was 37 when I finally, that's 20 years later that I went and found someone to help me professionally.
Wow.
And that long. And I was just like the gal you were just talking about. I
You
Here I
just
am.
felt strong enough to deal with it.
It was like, or even not strong enough. Like it was almost like I had like it was like I was getting sick all the time. I was overworking myself like so bad, like unhealthy, losing weight, losing hair. And I finally was like, what am I sick? Or like, is something wrong with me? Like, and then I realized, and I'll never forget it. I remember I pulled my husband Ryan into my bedroom and I just started bawling.
Right.
And he was like, oh gosh, what's wrong? And he didn't think it would be anything what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I think that I need help. I don't think that I have even dealt with my mom's death. I think that I've been running and running and running and running for 20 years. And I have to stop. I have 2 boys that I need to be strong for. And so I got a really beautiful referral from a really good friend to an amazing therapist who is, she specializes in post-traumatic stress and grieving. And I've been working with her now for, oh gosh, I want to say close to 5 years. And it was pretty intense the first year. I'm not going to lie. It was twice a week. It was rough, but I definitely was one of those people going through that, but running from it in a way where I picked my career. And so here I am doing running a business, and I would just like with my career, I would just set a goal, hit it, set a goal, hit it, set a goal, hit it, set a goal, hit it. And that's what made me feel good. And it just never stopped and never stopped and never stopped until 20 years later. It's like, okay, what are we actually running from? Even though I was very successful at all the things, just like I was on the basketball court.
Right.
But when I went into my first, I think it was even my very first appointment with my therapist, and like going back to your gal that you interviewed a couple weeks ago, when she literally said that I'm suffering from post-traumatic stress, I just was like, thank you. That's what's happening. I was like, you're kidding me. And she's like, absolutely. Oh my goodness. You're only telling me this tiny part of your story. And yes. And so just knowing that was just like, okay, now I know I'm not sick. I know I'm not crazy. I am literally like have this, and here I go. I'm going to conquer it, and let's go.
Yeah. Wow. I'm so grateful that you got to find her. That
Yeah,
was wonderful.
She's just brilliant. I get to see her once a month still, and she's absolutely the most brilliant woman I've ever gotten to speak with, and I just adore her.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah. I'm lucky.
Very lucky.
Very lucky.
And I'd like to ask you, of all the different things besides therapy that you were helped with, can you tell me other things you might have done that helped you so that our listeners and our viewers might gain from that? I know you said that your faith really, really did help you.
Yeah, and thankfully I was raised, I mean, it was just instilled in me from the get-go, which was fantastic. But then at that same time where I was really trying to, when I was like 37, 20 years later, I was like, I need to get this figured out, was when I was really diving into my Bible and doing Bible studies quite a bit with some really close, beautiful friends of mine. And that helped me extremely, just to know that like I have that support from Jesus Christ, and I know that like if he's there for me, and he's got that story and a plan and all the things that you just get annoyed with. Really, you're like, why am I going through this?
Yes.
You know, like why is this happening? Why this happened to my family? And why I can say now, I do understand why I had to go through some of this pain, but I would definitely say my faith in building a stronger relationship with Jesus is definitely my number one thing that has helped me.
Would you say that there were times where your faith wavered a little bit along the journey?
Yeah, great question. When my mom was killed, Jesus was gone for probably 10 years.
Yeah.
10 about 10 years. I was not happy.
Yes. Like, how could you do this to me?
Yeah.
Why would you do this to me? I did nothing wrong. She did nothing wrong.
Exactly. Like, why are we being punished? Like, how could you do this? Like, we're good people. My mom was like my mom was everything to everybody. She just was that personality. Like every person in our town in Enumclaw will say that my mom was their best friend because she just was that person.
Oh, that's so nice.
She's just a wonderful human being. But yeah, so yeah, that I was not happy for a lot of years. And so I didn't practice my faith for that long. And then as soon as I started bouncing back into it, and it was really when I became a mom, Mary, when I became a mom, that was a whole nother thing where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a mom now. And like, now I'm like, what my mom was to me, I am to these little boys. And so that was a whole nother thing of like, oh my goodness, not going to be good enough. Like she's not here to help me. Like how is she? How would she do this? All those things, you know, that we
Yeah.
go through. When we lose a parent that we need in our lives. So and
And
then we
missing her guidance and advice.
and exactly. And thankfully, I have my sisters are amazing, and so we really that's another thing that was helpful is that I had three sisters, and we're all 2 years apart, and we're very close, and uh, I was able to go to them for those things, and they did their best, and I did my best, and we still do. We try to do our best to be there, like in that way. So I would say my sisters were a huge support too. So if you can find people, they don't, you know, there doesn't always have to be siblings, but people you can trust and that love you and support you because when you're going through something like this, you're just mad. You're mad. You
Yes.
know, you really
Big
have
time.
big time mad, and some people are more mad than others. And some people hang on to the anger more than others.
Mhm.
And yeah, I've seen all of this. And so, and my anger lasted, like I said, probably 10, 12 years. I was pretty angry. I mean, I wasn't mean to people, but you know, like that
Yeah.
I was just like couldn't get past being angry. So then if you have that in your heart, it's kind of like almost like most things that you do, you kind of go to that because I just wanted it out. I
Yeah.
just I just wanted it out when just wanted that out. And I'm thankful that I was brave enough. That's the other thing is being brave enough to seek help because it's really scary because you're already in pain and you know that if you're going to go seek professional help with like counselor or therapist or pastor, you know it's just going to be worse. You're going to break even harder. It's going to hurt even more to crack that open so you can heal. You know, I had to go through that. Took me a long time. Hmm.
When you have such a sudden death,
Mhm.
not that anticipatory death isn't difficult,
Mhm.
because when someone, for instance, has an illness or whatever, and you've been helping them along, and maybe they went through remissions and back and forth, you're never happy, not happy, but you're never um, okay with the fact that they died just then. Because in your head, you're thinking, oh, it's another few months or another year, or they'll be in remission again, like before. So you never, it's always like a sudden death to them in the sense that, why is it now? Why wasn't it a month ago? Why is it a month from now? And in your case, when it's such a sudden death,
Mhm.
um, as like an accident or homicide or suicide or anything that's like right
Yeah.
in your face. I mean, you can't prepare for that at all. I don't care what anybody says. Nobody prepares for that kind of a death.
Yeah. And thank you for saying that because that was one thing I think I thought would be important to talk about is just like when families go through this, especially like the sudden, like you're saying, like my family went through, you're not prepared.
No,
Your family has no idea what to do. My dad did his best. He didn't know what to do. Um, did his best. Amazing. My sisters too, all of us. But like you're not set up to cope with it with that.
no.
My suggestion, because I've been through it, is to seek help as quickly as you possibly can. A professional. And maybe not always it's going to be okay for some of us. And I could say from experience, my family, because I was in the car with my mother and I was a mute for a week and a half. They were very, very concerned. And everyone's going through the same thing. But my dad did set me up with a counselor and right away, and I think all my sisters too, I can't remember. And I just remember just hating that and not ready for that. I didn't say I don't think I said one word the whole time.
Wow.
And so I guess there is when it's a child, it's a touchy situation because um, I really needed to talk, but I was so mad and angry and
Yep.
don't tell me who I need to talk to. Like, I don't even talk to you guys about the whole thing. Like, it was more like that.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know what the answer would be, but I do know waiting 20 years is not healthy. And putting all of that like pain and
And
grief
the weight of it on your
and
shoulders, trying to just sustain all that.
yes, it just does not work. I don't know how it worked. And my counselor has said it to me too. Like, I don't know how that I would sustain that for that long. Um, but I was just thankful I finally, took care of myself. And I think that is key for people who are grieving, that they seek professional help so that they can understand what they're feeling.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree.
Because I
And
remember
and people
saying,
need to realize that, especially on the faith issue, that I don't think I've ever known anybody who was a very faithful person that
mhm,
didn't go through the questioning,
mhm,
you know? And I think we have to recognize that, there's nothing wrong with you if you question God. I remember writing in one of my books, He's big enough to take all your questions. you
yeah,
know,
yeah, uh-huh,
He's big enough to take care of all the questions in the universe and, come up with help to help
yes,
you and comfort you.
yes, exactly. I agree.
Everybody's angry at God, but
Mhm,
as soon as something major happens in your life, what's the first thing out of your mouth? Oh my God.
mhm,
You call on him. You don't even realize you're calling on him, right? But that's what
absolutely.
it is when you say, oh my God, you're
Yeah,
calling on him. So,
asking for help.
yes, exactly.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
and uh, I went through the same thing. I questioned. I didn't, I couldn't deal with it either for very many years. The broken record kept going in my head, about why my stepdaughter was murdered at 11. I mean, this is not supposed to happen. Um,
mhm,
but for me, I saw Joyce Meyer one morning at 5:30 a.m. I had been writing books overnight. And all of a sudden, I hear her I had the TV on like for, noise. And I hear her and I'm listening to her. And she said, if, God wasn't big enough to handle all of this in the world, then he wouldn't be God.
yeah,
And we want to know, we want to know the answers to the why and how come and all that. But he's the only one who could answer it. And until you die, you're never going to know the answer or why the whole thing was set up the way it was.
mhm,
And you have to
mhm,
come to a place where you can let that be. You can accept that,
yeah,
you know.
mhm,
It's not
yep,
easy. It
no,
takes a long time.
it
And like
does.
you were saying, you go through all that anger. you-
Mhm,
And so I would just like to say that to our audience, it doesn't come easy to get to the place where you can just let it be. And the reason that you want to do this is so that that stupid broken record in your head,
mhm,
that keeps playing, around and around, that you want to completely go away, it doesn't go away unless you're willing to get to a place where you realize you're not God
mhm,
and
mhm,
you're not going to get that answer. And if you could just let that be and remember the beautiful things that you've been through with your mom, you know, and concentrate on them.
absolutely. I'm thankful that I can do that at this point in my life. Um, I am 44 this year in May, and my mother was 44 years old when she passed. And so I've always been so weird, even at 17, deathly afraid. I can't explain it, but deathly afraid of turning 44.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, just, I mean, weird, but can't explain it. But
Did you think
man,
it was because that's when you might die?
I think there was a fear of like outliving my mom's life. I was going back to like, that shouldn't happen. Like
Okay.
like I'm older than my mother. Like I never really had the thoughts of I might die at 44. I don't have those thoughts,
Okay.
thankfully.
Uh-huh.
Um, I appreciate that my brain's not doing that. But I think it was just like feeling of outliving her because she's my mother and I shouldn't be older than her. It's just kind of sad.
Or you shouldn't be able to live more life than she had.
Yeah, yeah. Like I shouldn't. Yeah, I think it just brings me back to like, and you'll know, back to the grieving spot. Like these things, this is one of the things that would bring me back, and it so like I think maybe just thinking about it makes me sad, you know.
Sure.
But I will say in like November-ish of last year, 2022. I don't know what it was, but I literally was thinking about this turning 44 almost daily for like 2 years. It was just in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And so in November, I don't even know, but for some reason, well, of course, November, because that's the month that the accident was. It's always reasons for things, but it was like in November, and I just woke up and I was just like, I'm gonna spin this and I'm gonna have the best year ever. When my like I'm gonna run a half marathon, the first time ever. It's in
Oh,
September.
wow. That's
And
a big feat.
yeah, I have a couple things that I'm like, I'm gonna do these things that I kind of always want to do, but never had the time because working a lot and a mom and running a company and things like that. But and it kind of flipped really quickly for me, Mary. A quick. So it's like almost the year of like showing my mom, guess what?
Look
I'm gonna
what I
do
did.
all this stuff. And I'm gonna be
Look
better than
what I
you.
did. You'll be so proud of me.
Yeah, you're gonna be so proud of me. I'm gonna do this stuff that you probably wanted to do, and like I'm gonna be older than you, and you're gonna be so proud of me, and like that kind of a thing. And
Yep,
I
yep.
haven't gone back. It's been nothing but positive turning 44 since that
That's
day.
phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm very thankful for that. Yeah,
It's amazing what we can um, do in our minds. I mean, our mind is really everything.
yeah,
It really is. I mean,
yeah. I agree.
that it's taken a while for me to learn it, for all of us really to learn it. Everything starts in your mind, how you feel, what you think, what you expect, what you plan for, your goals, everything is there.
It's creating the space once you start working through your grief and your and your trauma.
Mhm.
And once you start, and I am a testament because I know I've been through this. And once you remove those things, it creates space for all the good things to come, that can come back into your life or your heart and your soul or your mind. Um, and I think that's really true. And I think that all of us who are grieving, we kind of like hold on to that a little bit because there is, I went through feeling guilty about trying to get through this grief and, oh no, I should be feeling like this the rest of my life. And
Oh,
yeah, you
there's a
know,
lot of people who go through that. It's like, how can I move forward with my life when my mother's not with me?
yeah,
And how disrespectful is that?
yeah, I went through that.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. I went through all of that. And so I just would settle on being sick. And um And as I was working through that first year of work, there were times where I was like, whoa, you know, I just feel, I mean, I, you feel like you're supposed, like, it's really interesting because you feel like you're supposed to stay in that state. It's so ridiculous to honor that person that you lost because, like you just said, how can you move on and get rid of that and fill it with love and happiness when you're missing that person so desperately?
Yep. And they're not here to live the rest of their life.
Yeah. So
And so
that's
for some reason, you just take on the feeling of, well, if they're not here and they're not living their life, then I'm really not supposed to be able to do that either, which
yeah. And that again,
all go through.
mind.
We all go through.
Yeah, yeah. It's like another, like you were saying, in your mind, making up stories to help you understand what you're going through. But it's just, yeah, and that's why seeking help the sooner the better, because it's not a lot of people, like, that 20 years of my life that I didn't seek help, I still kind of trucked through and I did great. Like I married an amazing man. I have two beautiful, really respectful, good boys. I built a business that's successful. And that's not really normal, I don't think, but I put all of that's my pain and grief into that so I didn't have to feel it, right? But I think a lot of people might choose more negative things,
Yes.
and then progresses into issues and problems, and it like ruins your life. And so the sooner the better with getting help with these things when you lose a parent or parent like figure in your life, especially young kids. Just so I love your foundation so much. It's why I just knew I needed to be a part of you and your foundation because I really just kids are so important in our world, you know.
Yes, they are.
Mhm.
Grief is such a, it's something that you don't know what to expect along the way. There are just different things that are going to pop up at different times, and we all feel them. And sometimes we think that it's not natural or normal, but they are. They are. They're everything you're feeling is natural and normal, and you should never make yourself feel wrong or bad about whatever's coming up for you. And if people in your family or in your circle of friends don't understand those particular feelings, that's the best way to go to a therapist and get confirmation that you're okay. You're really okay. It's gonna be okay. It might not feel like it today or tomorrow, but it will be okay again. There's gonna be another part of your life that will circle around and you're gonna be all right.
Mhm. Yep. And going back to the what you were saying about, you know, that your circle, your family or circle of friends might not understand and what you're going through or what you're thinking or what you're saying, and you know, seeking professional help is important. And I just want to touch on, I think I said it earlier, is like we don't know, people don't know what to do or say or
No.
when it's not anything that it's uncomfortable for people. It's they don't under so so that's why when in grief it is very important to talk to a professional because
Yep.
even though you have your people who love you so much, like even like my family was going through exactly what I was going through, my sisters and my dad, but like we had no idea what to do.
Yes.
No idea how to help one sister, me, or how to help my dad. Like you just don't know. You don't know. We don't have the coping skills to figure out on our own how to help with that.
Right.
So that's why I know I've said it 100 times in our conversation, but to seek professional help is just was game changer for me, for my life. It's completely, just, I can't even really say how I'm so thankful that I was brave enough and found my girl.
That's so great. And you mentioned that Ryan, your husband, knew your mom. And
Mhm.
so he, you know, had his own grieving process to go through.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And it's interesting that I didn't even really see it until I was, a year into my therapy is when I really noticed, oh, okay, so I think I think Ryan is grieving. And I just straight up like asked him. I was just like, so you see all the things in the last year and a half of what I'm doing. And because he's living with me, he's my husband, he sees the progress, he sees what I'm doing, right?
Hmm.
So I just asked him and he just was like, wow. And he got very emotional. He's like, yeah, you've never asked me this. And I'm like, well, because it's been all about me all these years.
Yeah.
It's me, my mom, it's all about me.
Yeah.
And when I was able to work through stuff and literally just ask my husband, I want to ask you, you were so close with her and in our family for so long. And he was actually there that day that it happened. And a lot of good stuff came out of it. And he was able to, from that day on, able to, he's kind of grieving with me. Like he's able to share more.
Well,
Um,
because you gave him permission to open up.
yes, exactly.
He
Hmm.
probably didn't want to come forward with it because he thought that would even hurt you even more.
Exactly what he said.
Interesting.
Exactly what he said. He said, I would never have ever brought it up all these years because there's no way I'd give you more to deal with than you already were dealing with your grief and your pain. And I'm like, well, I think I have some space for you now. I have space for you now. So let's talk. And then we still do it all the time. Like we had a conversation about her just almost every day.
That's
Almost.
great.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I just love how everything came around because you said you were on the way to a hair salon to take care of your sister's wedding. Well, the hair you were going to wear for your sister's wedding. And
Yeah,
it,
we were going to get our hair, my mom and I to get our hair done um, and I, because my sister was getting married 2 weeks later. So she was taking me to get my haircut and all those things. And so, yeah, we were going to get our hair done by her hairdresser, who I still adore. And I ended up after hair school working for him for 12 years. Um,
I find that amazing.
it is. He's trained me and I worked with him for that long. And he's still, yeah, I've got some pretty amazing people in my life. He messaged me on my birthday and Mother's Day and
Oh,
he's
how
amazing.
nice.
Yeah, he was very
That's
close
so
to my
nice.
mother too. So yeah, then yeah,
Everything comes turning around. It's just amazing, isn't it? And now you own your own salon called Salon Kathleen.
yes, yes.
And the website is salonkathleen.com.
Mhm.
And say the name of the city again.
Enumclaw, Washington.
State.
Yeah, Enumclaw, Washington State, in Washington State.
That's so wonderful. That's
Yes.
wonderful. Well, I want to thank you so much. Is there anything else you might want to share before we close out?
Oh gosh, man, I do feel like I talked a lot more than I thought I would. Proud of myself. Um, no, I just again just really hope that people can what get out of this is that it's hard, it's painful, it's not fair. It's but there is a way to survive if you take the right steps, if you have faith, you will survive. And seeking help is the first step. Opening your Bible is actually the first step. Opening your Bible. That's really all. I just want people to know that like I was in a really bad way for a long time. And I am so good now and happy and have an amazing family. And I do have my hard days, like we talked, but you know, um, there is there is you can move forward and you can be happy. That's all I want to say.
Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you,
Janae,
Mary.
I appreciate your friendship so much, and I'm so grateful that you came and visited us today and told us all about your wonderful mom, Kathy, and your family and all you've been through. And look at how beautiful and healthy and happy you look now. I'm so grateful.
Thank, thank you, Mary. I appreciate you and I honor our friendship as well. I'm so grateful for it.
Thank you. We'll talk again soon. Good
Now,
night.
thank you.